At my daughter's dedication ceremony, my MIL handed me a Bible and said, "Maybe now you'll learn how to raise a decent woman." I stayed silent. That night, I took every backhanded comment, every snide email, every threat, and compiled them into a photo book called Lessons in Motherhood. I gifted it to her on her 60th birthday, with a note that said, "This is your legacy." I'm not sure if it's worse when someone hates you and is open about it, or when they mask it with fake smiles and sweet words that cut deep. My name's Rachel, and I live in Gainesville, Georgia, a town where everyone knows your name, your business, and if you leave your porch light on too long. I've been married to Mark for almost 8 years now. We met at a 4th of July cookout. He was wearing a red t-shirt that said barbecue, beer, freedom, and I thought he was a jerk. Turns out, he wasn't. He was just raised by a woman who treats every nice gesture like a debt that needs to be paid back with interest. Her name is Susan. And I swear to God, this woman could weaponize kindness. You ever meet someone who acts like every word they say is dipped in honey, but somehow it burns going down? That's her. When Mark and I got serious, Susan told me, "To my face, you seem fragile." But maybe he needs someone like that. When we got engaged, she asked, "Have you started looking at prenups yet?" At our wedding, she told my mother, "She cleans up okay." I swallowed it all. Every backhanded compliment, every sigh when I made a decision that didn't involve her, every unsolicited piece of advice about my body, my cooking, or how I fold towels wrong. I used to think that being polite meant not pushing back. That if I kept being respectful, she'd come around. I didn't want drama. I wanted a family. Then Lily was born. And Susan got worse. From the moment we brought Lily home, Susan acted like I was some teenager who needed parenting tips from the 80s. She'd say things like, "Babies cry when they don't feel safe, or "That outfit's a little tacky for a baby, don't you think?" She called me Mama in that tone that meant, "You idiot." Like, well, Mama knows best, I guess. One day, I got an email from her titled Some Thoughts. It was 3 pages long. Here's a gem from that one. "Rachel, I worry that your emotional instability might affect Lily's development. I'm not saying you're a bad mother. I'm saying you don't know how to be a good one yet. That's okay. That's what I'm here for." I didn't answer, but I saved it. Then came the texts, comments on Facebook, side eyes at church. And Mark, bless his heart, always said the same thing. "She doesn't mean it like that." Or worse, "That's just how she is." So I stopped telling him everything. Not to be sneaky, but because it didn't matter. He wasn't going to stand up to her. And I started saving things. Screenshots. Photos of the passive-aggressive gifts she gave me. A bottle of diet pills after I gave birth. A card that said, "You've got this, barely." At the time, I didn't know why I kept it all. Maybe I thought I'd confront her one day. Maybe I just needed proof that I wasn't crazy. Then came Lily's dedication day. That's when everything changed. We had the ceremony at our small church. It wasn't fancy, just close friends and family. I dressed Lily in the same white gown I wore as a baby. It meant a lot to me. Susan showed up late, in a white dress. She gave me this look like she was doing me a favor by being there. During the blessing, Lily fussed a bit. Susan sighed, loudly, then leaned over to my mom and whispered something that made her eyes go wide. My mom didn't repeat it. She just squeezed my hand. Then at the reception, while I was holding Lily and chatting with Mark's cousin, Susan walked over and handed me a wrapped gift. Everyone watched. She smiled and said, "Hopefully this will help you raise Lily the right way." I unwrapped it. A plain black King James Bible. Inside the cover, she'd written, "Maybe now you'll learn how to raise a decent woman." I looked at her. I looked around. I felt this heat rise in my chest, but I didn't say anything. I just nodded and walked away. But something snapped that night. Not in a crazy way. Not in an "I'm gonna flip a table" way. Just this quiet, calm resolve. I sat down at my computer, opened that folder on my desktop, and started building something. I stayed up that whole night. Mark had no idea. He was passed out in bed, snoring softly, while I was in the dining room with my laptop, the baby monitor on the table, and a cold cup of coffee going untouched. Every time I thought I was done, I'd find another email, another text, another memory I hadn't saved yet, but still remembered word for word. I'd type it up, label it, slide it into the layout. I wasn't just making a book. I was building a mirror, one she couldn't turn away from. It ended up being 98 pages long. I broke it into sections. Chapter 1, just trying to help all the unsolicited advice, emails, and comments she passed off as guidance. Chapter 2, before you came along, her digs about me ruining her relationship with Mark. Chapter 3, what a real mother does, gifts like the wrinkle cream, diet pills, and that time she told me a real mom sacrifices everything, including her pride. Chapter 4, raising Lily right every time she said I was doing it wrong. Chapter 5, words that stick, screenshots, and quotes that still hurt. The worst one, Lily's future is already limited because of who you are. Don't pretend otherwise. On the very last page, I placed a baby photo of Lily. She's laughing, chubby cheeks red, eyes squinting from joy. Below it, I wrote, "This is your granddaughter. This is who she is in spite of you, not because of you. Your words are not wisdom. They are warnings. This is your legacy." I had the book printed through a site that does professional photo books. I didn't rush it. I made sure it looked beautiful. Leather-bound, thick glossy pages, the works. I wanted her to feel proud opening it, at first. Then I waited. Her 60th birthday was coming up. Mark suggested we host it at our house. Said it would mean a lot to her. I almost laughed. I said, sure. She arrived in a pearl-colored sweater dress, carrying one of those plastic pie containers from Costco. She kissed Mark on the cheek and handed me the pie like it was poisoned. "Happy to be here," she said, eyes narrowing. "Looks like you managed to keep the place clean." The house was spotless, of course. I'd scrubbed every corner out of pure spite. Dinner was quiet, tense. She told a long story about how she raised Mark without ever needing all this new age nonsense. I just smiled and kept passing the potatoes. Then came the gifts. Mark gave her a locket with a picture of Lily in it. She fake cried. Her friends gave her wine, bath sets, scented candles. Then it was my turn. I handed her the book, wrapped in soft paper. No card, no bow. She peeled it open slowly, still smiling. She opened the cover, then stopped. Silence. She turned a page. Another. Her smile faltered. She glanced up at me, then looked back down. It took less than a minute before she slammed it shut and said, "What the hell is this?" Everyone stared. I said, calmly, your own words, collected over the years. "You've been so generous with advice, I thought it deserved to be preserved." Her eyes went red. "You think this is funny?" "No," I said. "I think it's the most honest gift I've ever given." Mark was speechless. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. His dad, who usually never says a word, gave a little grunt that could have been a laugh or a cough. Susan stood up. "You ungrateful little—" "Don't," I said. "Don't say another word in front of my daughter." She stormed out. Mark followed her to the driveway, tried to calm her down. But I stayed inside. I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on the couch while Lily napped upstairs. That night, I didn't sleep. Not out of guilt. Out of clarity. The peace that followed? It was unreal. For about 3 weeks after the birthday dinner, Susan didn't call, text, or show up. No surprise visits. No emails. No backhanded comments passed through Mark. It was so quiet, it actually felt eerie. Mark didn't bring it up much. Just once, a few days later, he asked, "Do you feel better?" I told him, I feel like I finally spoke up for myself. He didn't push. But he didn't defend her, either. I think part of him had always known how she was, but until that night, he'd never really seen it. He'd never seen it lined up page after page after page. Then, in week 4, the silence broke. But not from Susan. It came from her sister, Janice, Mark sent. She's the type who still wears church hats and talks like she's running a prayer line. She called me one morning while I was folding laundry. No, hello, just, Rachel, what have you done? Apparently, Susan had taken the book with her to their monthly bridge night. She'd told the group I had manipulated her words and fabricated stories to turn her family against her. But she also showed them the book because she couldn't help herself. She wanted to prove I was vicious. She expected support. She didn't get it. Janice told me that when they saw the texts, the emails, the photos, a few of them actually walked out. Rachel, she said, it was like watching a woman realize her reflection is uglier than she ever believed. That alone might have been enough for me. But Susan wasn't done. The next Sunday, after church, Mark went out to pick up donuts. Lily and I were still in our pajamas. That's when the doorbell rang. I opened it, and there she was. Susan, standing there with a small, thin envelope in her hand and that same tight, forced smile she wore like armor. She didn't ask to come in. She just handed me the envelope and said, "You made your little statement. Now let me make mine." Then she turned around, heels clicking on the porch, and drove off. Inside the envelope was a folded piece of paper. It wasn't handwritten. It was printed in a stiff serif font, the kind you use when you're trying to sound professional. It read, "To whom it may concern, it is clear now that the relationship between Rachel and myself has reached an irreparable point. While I will always love my son and my granddaughter, I can no longer, in good conscience, subject myself to such calculated cruelty and public humiliation. Until Rachel can demonstrate a willingness to apologize and course-correct her behavior, I will be removing myself from future family events and communication. Sincerely, Susan D." I laughed out loud. She'd written a damn press release. I handed it to Mark when he came home. He read it twice. Then he said she always did love the drama. But a week later, the consequences started hitting differently. Mark's cousin, Holly, canceled a play date she had set with Lily. Said something about not wanting to get in the middle of things. A few other relatives didn't respond to texts or skipped a family barbecue. One of them finally admitted it. Susan had started calling everyone. Not to apologize. To paint herself as the victim. She told people I was mentally unstable, that I hacked her emails, that I was emotionally abusive. She even tried to say I was alienating Mark from his family. At first, it didn't get much traction. But you know how gossip works. If you repeat something enough, someone's going to believe it. Even Mark started to notice. "It's like she's trying to turn everyone against you," he said one night. "She is," I told him. "Because she can't fight facts, so now she's rewriting the story." I knew I couldn't undo what I did, and I didn't want to, but I also didn't expect the ripple to hit this hard. For the first time, I started to wonder, had I made things worse? Then I got the call. From Susan's old friend, Maureen. The same Maureen who once told me, "You've got guts, marrying into that." She said, "Susan's trying to start legal trouble, Rachel." What kind of trouble? She's talking about calling CPS. When Maureen told me Susan was talking about calling CPS, my whole body went cold. I sat down on the kitchen floor, next to Lily's high chair, and just stared at the wall. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. But something deep in me cracked. I always knew Susan was controlling, mean, manipulative. But this? This was her crossing a line that could destroy lives. Calling CPS isn't a joke. That's the kind of thing that stays with you, even if it's proven false. I didn't wait. I called Mark at work. He was on speaker when I asked, "If your mom tries to report me, are you with me or with her?" He didn't even pause. "With you. Always." That same night, I contacted a lawyer. A family friend referred me to a woman named Carlene, who handled harassment and defamation cases. She was sharp, direct, and angry on my behalf within minutes. She's creating a paper trail, Carlene said. If she files a false report and we can prove it's retaliation, we have a case. You just need to keep everything. Emails, texts, voicemails. I already had a whole folder. It happened 2 weeks later. A woman from CPS showed up at our house around 2 p.m. on a Wednesday. I'll never forget her face, sympathetic, but tired, like she'd seen way too many homes where the danger was real. She said someone filed an anonymous report about emotional neglect and unsafe conditions. I invited her in. Lily was napping. The house was spotless. She looked around, asked a few questions, and within 20 minutes she said, "This is clearly a false report. I'm so sorry you're going through this." Before she left, I asked, "Can I see the report? Even if it's anonymous?" She paused, then nodded. "You have the right to request it in writing. But I can tell you this, it included a lot of specific details only a family member would know." Susan hadn't even tried to cover her tracks. That was the final straw for me. The book had been revenge. It had been truth. But now I needed protection. I needed distance. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I gave Mark an ultimatum. I'm going to court. I want a no-contact order. I want it clear that if she comes near Lily or me again, there are legal consequences. I'm not asking you to cut her off. But if you can't support this, I need to know now. He didn't answer right away. But later that night, I woke up to find him in Lily's room. He was holding her hand while she slept. He looked at me and said, "Do what you need to do." So I did. We filed. My lawyer gathered everything, years of messages, the book, the CPS visit. Susan got served 2 weeks later. She fought it, of course. Claimed I was trying to ruin her. Said I was unstable, manipulative, the real problem. But in court, facts matter. The judge looked through the printed emails. He read some of her texts out loud. At one point, he asked, "Why would you tell your daughter-in-law she's raising a stripper in training?" She said, "It was a joke." He didn't laugh. The no-contact order was granted. It's been 3 years. Susan hasn't seen Lily since that day in court. She tried once, showed up at daycare with cookies, just to say hello. They called the police. She was fined for violating the order. Mark has kept his distance too. He says it's hard, losing a mother like that. But he also said she made her choices. Lily's 5 now. Smart as hell. Kind. And loud, just like her mama. I tell her the truth in small pieces when she asks where her grandmother is. Someday, I'll show her the book. Not to teach her to hate. To teach her what boundaries look like. What truth costs. And what it's worth. Susan sent one more letter. Last Christmas. No return address. No apology. Just a card that said, "You'll regret this when Lily grows up and sees what you've done." I burned it in the fireplace. And then I pulled out that old photo book. I added one more page. Just a blank white space with a note written in my own handwriting. "I didn't ruin your legacy, Susan." You did. I just put it in print. That's how the story ends. But not the lesson. Never let someone make you small in your own home. Not even family. Especially not family. Some legacies are worth ending.